What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk through the Cotton Bowl with one of my best buddies, Steve Bullard, noted Oklahoma fan and Tulsa's best realtor. Brother, first, I got to ask, how you feel? How you feeling? You okay? You got everything done for Christmas?
I'm good. I think so. I do. I asked my wife, do I have everything done for Christmas? And she said yes.
Okay. Because I got a text last night. It's like, hey, can you buy these scooters? Yeah. Would have loved to have known about this weeks ago. And it's like, okay, well, everybody understands, but we're getting the scooters. Cool. We got the scooters. Another thing we get for Christmas, I think, is college football. Now, I've gone back and forth on this, but how do you feel about all these bowl games happening right now?
You talking about the ones happening today between teams we don't care about, or you mean just in general in the COVID world?
Take it any direction you want to go.
Well, the undercard this year is better than it's been, I think, in a long time. We've got Coastal versus Liberty, which is a game that was scheduled that didn't happen, that gave us Coastal BYU, which was strangely, tell us back in August or back in the off season, hey, one of the most intriguing games of the off season is going to be Coastal BYU. And, that was one of the games we cared about the most this year besides our own teams. And we've got, several of those type games happening in the undercard. And I'm pretty excited about that. A lot of the other games, the New Year's Six games, are a bunch of matchups I'm not really that interested in, to be honest.
No, and that's a good point. Thinking about how BYU Coastal Carolina still reverberates, right? Because Coastal Carolina is still undefeated. If BYU if they don't take that game, they're probably undefeated. And after they beat Central Florida so terribly badly last night, we're all asking the question of how good is Coastal Carolina? It's the thing that I took away from the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl, which, my God, okay, is that Central Florida usually puts up 50. Doesn't matter who they're playing, right? They put up 50. They go score. And they had not been beaten that badly since Josh Heupel took over the squad. And even before then, you're undefeated with Scott Frost. But I also was thinking about it from the standpoint of Brigham Young in that, Zach Wilson had 353 yards passing in the first half. And the defense looked way better than I thought they had any right to look. So I'm looking at BYU going, yep, see, I told you if you go play somebody, you're probably going to get beat down. But if you'd have told me that BYU would have played Central Florida and not Coastal Carolina, I would have picked Central Florida in that game. So, when you talk about the Cure Bowl, Liberty versus Coastal, I did a little bit of research. Did you know that Liberty and Central Florida are two of the largest universities in the country?
I knew that Central Florida was.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that about, you said Liberty?
Yeah. Lynchburg has a 47,000 undergrad enrollment.
I did not know that.
Right. So, them getting good in a hurry makes a lot of sense, right? In the same way that Central Florida being good makes a lot of sense. I have to remind people that Dante Culpepper went to Central Florida, right? Among other things. But then you look at FIU, they have one of the largest undergraduate populations in the country too, and Butch Davis might get fired. So there's a lot going on there, but I say that to say, wouldn't we have loved to have seen Brigham Young versus Liberty with an undefeated season on the line? Because something about religion and our football we hate until we get Notre Dame and BYU, or we get BYU and Liberty. And I'm throwing Liberty in there because, well, Jerry Falwell's university. So all that to say, I'm with you on the undercard and it being good. I even had fun watching Appalachian State versus North Texas to start this thing off. The other thing that I was looking forward to is, as much as we talk noise about it, I really want to see some of these matchups that the Big 12 is involved in and the SEC is involved in. So the Texas Bowl, I think it's Texas Christian versus Arkansas. I think that's good. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Texas versus Colorado, because I've seen Colorado exactly one time, and it was the loss they took to Utah. But, like, now we got, oh, yeah, this just came out. You're going to love this. Sam Ehlinger doesn't know if he's coming back or not.
I want to be a fly on the wall of Texas fans and media and players just reading that stuff. What a weird thing. They love the guy.
Yeah.
He could be mayor of Austin, yet they just cannot wait for him to go. It's the same as Landry Jones, right?
Ooh, there's a good comp. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. But he doesn't have the charisma, right? Like, that was always the thing that bothered me the most about Landry. It wasn't that he was slow. It was that he had nothing to say, ever. And as a guy covering the beat at the time, I would look in envy at people that got to cover Baker. Or, like, here's one. When Oklahoma played Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl in 2012, Johnny Manziel is opposite Landry Jones. And Johnny Manziel had not been allowed to talk at all per Kevin Sumlin's freshman rule. But at the bowl games, you have to make all of the kids available. So Johnny got his own table, right, like most quarterbacks do. And I swear to you, nobody went over there to talk to Landry at all. The scrum was like 40 deep of people with their tape recorders out looking for a quote from Johnny Manziel. And Johnny had all the things to say. And I can't imagine how much fun that is. And Landry was over there just kind of surfing his phone for a little bit until, the 20 minutes were up and he got to go. But Sam has all these cool things to say about the University of Texas and about how he feels about the University of Texas. And yet, I wouldn't want him to return. Especially since you saw Jaquindon Jackson go to Texas. You saw go to Utah. You saw Cam Rising go to Utah. Charlie Brewer's going to Utah. So you're down to Casey Thompson and Hudson Card. And Casey Thompson thought about 100% transferring last year and didn't. So, like, what do you tell Casey Thompson if Sam Ehlinger comes back, I guess is the question.
Yeah. That's tough because he's waited his turn. And we've seen Ehlinger's ceiling. He's a nice quarterback. He had a great career at Tulsa. But was he going to come back next year and be better? Like, what are we going to see different?
Nothing. Nothing at all. And I think that is the thing that I would be most frustrated about if I was a Texas fan. It's like, yo, man, nothing changes at all with this guy at quarterback. But then again, do you get that much better with Casey Thompson? And I guess the question is, do you want to find out? Right? And in that way, it's not unlike seeing Trevor Knight as your quarterback at Oklahoma. So much so that when Baker got an opportunity, he looked shaky against Tennessee. People were like, don't you dare put Trevor Knight back in there, in Lincoln's first year. All right, so Tanner Mordecai transfers to Southern Methodist. He gives an interview where he says, among other things, one of the reasons I wanted to transfer away, and SMU was at the top of the list to help that, he has a connection there in that Lincoln's brother Garrett is the offensive coordinator at SMU. Said, I can start. I'm a starter, but a guy that's younger than me won the starting job. What do you expect me to do? Which I thought was really self-aware and quite honest and refreshingly honest. Because what do you expect him to do, right? Like, do you expect him to sit there? Especially when you got Caleb Williams signed and coming in? Like, what's he supposed to do? I feel like this was how we were talking about Drew Allen years ago. But still, like, I think that he has an opportunity at SMU to be good because Shane Buechele got ran out of Texas and became, something of a folk hero at SMU with what he's been able to do the last 2 years. Is he going to be a good pro? Probably not. But you should have an opportunity to start. Where are you at with the Tanner Mordecai situation?
I saw enough of Mordecai to think he looks like he could be a decent, above-average group of 5 starter. A place like SMU that throws the ball around a lot, has a good system. He's a smart guy. I mean, he looked very capable in the OU system. I mean, I felt like if Rattler missed the Baylor game or something like that, Mordecai could have probably come in and won that game. I don't think Mordecai is nearly as good as Rattler or anything like that, but he seemed like a decent, capable backup. I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's transferring for his sake. He has no chance to see the field the next, ever at OU. he can start SMU, have a good year. I mean, it's a reason why I'll turn on SMU games and watch them play next year. I think he'll do fine. I think it's a good move. I'm for kids. That's what the portal's for.
Right.
It's for kids like that they gave it their all. They loved the university, and they just weren't as good as the other guy.
And
in this case.
And you're right. Like, because I love doing the look back. Right. I'm into recruiting. So it's to say, Tanner Mordecai commits like a week before Spencer Rattler commits. But Mordecai was like the third option for Lincoln, because you can make an argument that Cam Rising was first. Right. Rising was first, and then Casey Thompson. And Casey wasn't ready to make a decision. And that's how you end up with the twofer at Texas, because you're not going to turn him down. And then Mordecai's like, can I come up there? And he's like, look, I got this other kid just coming in right behind you. Is this what you want? And he said, yeah. And you know what? It went about the way you would expect it to go. Now, on the other hand, if you think that you're a Power 5 quarterback or you think you're a Power 5 player, you want to go give it a shot. But I always tell the kids when they ask me, and they don't ask me all the time, but when they ask me, what should I do? I say, go where you're going to have a good time. Go where you're going to play. Because don't nobody want to be Mookie Cooper right now, right? And I bring up Mookie Cooper because he went into the transfer portal earlier today as a freshman at Ohio State. Didn't play a single game this year. Is he a part of a Big Ten championship team? Yeah. Is he going to watch them play in the playoff? Yeah. Does he have any fun? No. He's not playing. So I'm with you. I think that's what the portal is for. Now, kind of segueing into the Cotton Bowl here, do you think losing Mordecai and, for that matter, Pledger has any bearing on this game whatsoever beside injuries?
No, not really. I mean, if we needed, if Ramondre opts out of the Cotton Bowl, which I guess doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point, it would have become a big factor. But other than that, no. I think McGowan or Marcus Major can provide enough punch to give Stevenson a break here and there. Mordecai, I don't see how he would have figured in.
No, I mean, and that's where I'm at with it too. But knowing that you have this Cotton Bowl to play for, if you don't think that is for you, if you don't think that that's something that you look forward to, then why play in it? And I think you and I talked about this a little bit.
Are they giving away PS5s? Maybe that's what we should look at.
Man, I wish I could tell you how many like moms have just kind of reached out to me randomly and be like, "Do you have a lead on a PS5? I know you play a lot of video games, or at least I'm told you play a lot of video games." And I'm like, "No, I have been skunked." It's like, I don't know. Steve, you're not a sneakerhead, but there is an app that is called the Sneakers app, right? SNKRS. And you get on that app thinking you're going to get the new hotness. You know exactly when these shoes drop. You know that they go live at 12:01, and you got your finger hovering on the button. And them mugs is gone by 12:03. And you're going, the app crashed on me. This is not my fault. That's where I have been with the PS5 since the jump. And you know what I've decided? I've decided I don't need one until the summer now. Because people are robbing each other for these. Like, you tell people you got one, and all of a sudden you don't know who broke into your house. Like, I can't imagine that they got their hands on enough PS5s to give these kids the Cotton Bowl. And if they did, I would not be shocked to see some of the kids turn a profit on these. Right? Because
Iowa State and Oregon guys are going to get robbed, I guess.
They getting PS5s?
At Fiesta Bowl they are, yeah.
Oh my God! I had no idea. What? How did they pull that off?
Breaking news: Charlie Kolar is not going to opt out of the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, like, we want to talk about an incentive. You're talking about a way to keep me playing in this game. You know that?
Yeah, people talk about that's exactly right. How do you get kids from opting out? PS5, baby.
I mean, but like, for real though, because like, let's say for the sake of argument that you don't give it away. If you re-gift it to, like, I don't know, I guess we're getting into the age where dads that have like teenagers still play video games. You re-gifted that to your dad. Do you know that you could do no wrong for like the next 5 years? minimum. Like the implications of having a PS5 right now are myriad. I could have gone all day without you telling me that, Steve. Like, what?
I assumed you knew.
No.
I've never told you anything you didn't already know before.
No, but man, like, let me tell you what I have not been doing is going through the bowl gifts. I guess that's something I would normally do, right? Or that we do in a normal year. But nothing about this has been normal in that the day after they announce, the selections and the rankings, we're playing bowl games. And I'm just trying to keep up and get the games in that I'm supposed to watch. But no, like, I can't. So many of my questions at Media Day would be about, have you hooked it up? What have you downloaded? How do you expect to get this out of here? Who's, you know what I mean? Like, now that we know you got one, do you not expect us to kick in your door? yo, cleaning lady, I got you.
I'd want it shipped. I don't want to touch it.
Right.
I want you to take my possession till I'm home.
No, I'm with that. I'm totally with that. All right, so now I got to go find out what the Cotton Bowl gifts are.
Dude, I'm already ahead of you. I'm on the website right now.
Okay.
I'm looking.
When you see
something, to tell you.
Okay. When you see something, you butt in. But
first of all, can we talk about the Cheez-It Bowl?
Oh, who is in it? It is Oklahoma State and give me a second.
Miami.
Thank you. Yeah.
So they're getting a book called History of the Bowls, Celebrating the Good of the Game.
No, they're not. They are.
They're getting other stuff too, but that's the one that jumps out at me. They're getting a GoPro.
That would have been cool 10 years ago.
They can strap it to their chest and record themselves reading that book.
Man, somebody's going to look at that book and be like, yo, did they just give us a book for Christmas? Is that what they just did?
The Belk Bowl is giving away a shopping trip to a Belk store.
Oh, man.
I can't find the Cotton Bowl. Where's the Cotton Bowl? These aren't in order of...
No.
They are in order of date.
See, no.
They don't have it on here. Orange Bowl gets a nice watch. Oh, here we go.
Bunch of dads.
Yeah,
put together this.
Cotton Bowl reps wouldn't disclose the contents of this year's gift package.
Ooh! See, now, all right. I think that is the Cotton Bowl folks finally getting a little bit smart about this because, where I'm sitting, if I'm Trey Brown, who opted out of playing in the bowl game, right? If I'm Kyle Pitts, who opted out of playing in the bowl game, I would want to know what the gifts are, even if I don't think I'm going to play because, like you said, put PS5 in there, we got something to talk about. But now I'm pulling them up too, but like, what do they do with the Gasparilla Bowl stuff now? That's my question. Because there is no Gasparilla Bowl. So they have all that stuff. What are they going to do with it? I'm sure there's a Boys and Girls Club around there, but that doesn't work with the joke.
I was going to say, send it to like a third world country like they do the church for the team that didn't win the championship, maybe.
Is that what they do with those?
I don't know. That's what they do with the shirts, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I kind of... in Monique voice, I would like to see that. Running around with the 2012 national champion Notre Dame Fighting Irish shirt on.
Yeah, you go to Hotel Rwanda. Yeah, they think Clemson won it last year.
I was just gonna say, right? Alabama did not get beat like they stole something in 2018. Didn't happen.
And by the way, if you're scoring, if you're doing a running scoreboard in the quarter, that's my first Coming America 2 reference.
Yo, I don't know that there are enough people that have seen that trailer yet, but if you haven't, you should go check it out. I have been hoping and praying that it's just good, that it's just a good time. Not that it's as good as Coming to America, but just that it's a good time. And then you get this.
Gotta be, man.
Well, I mean, all right, you saw what I saw. They're bringing back all the characters. There's even a Randy Watson sighting in that trailer. But now I want to know what is Wesley Snipes doing in this movie?
I mean, there's going to be some stuff we don't like.
Mm.
You can't have a sequel of a cult classic like that and like everything about it. But it's still. But you said is it going to be a good time? It's definitely going to be a good time. We're going to enjoy it, even if the movie isn't that good. We're going to enjoy it.
Yo, man, I can't deal with Eddie Murphy Norbiting this movie. Like, I can't have no Doolittles with this. You got to come correct. You know, like, he ain't made anything funny since Nutty Professor. I don't know if he still got it in him, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not here for no tower heist. Yeah. Don't send me no tower heist. No. I need this to be politically incorrect. I need this to be just as offensive. I need this to push all of the chips into the table. You know, which leads me back to, you know, just taking a look at 1980s comedies. I got this book on the shelf that I need to read about that era of screwball comedy and SNL. But some of the stuff that you could just do, you could just get away with. In a 2020 lens, you got to ask, how did that happen? How do I get to do that without making somebody really, really, really mad? You don't, is the answer to that question. All right, so did you see? Go ahead.
What has Arsenio Hall been doing the last 20 years?
I hope whatever he wants. Like, seriously, after the Arsenio Hall show, he has given us everything that I like. I wish that, like, inside the actor studio, I wish Arsenio Hall, just all of the episodes were on a YouTube channel. Because it was amazing television that nobody watched.
I watch it every night.
Oh, man. Like, I'm looking at...
I even have a Chunky A CD.
Really? I swear.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is... I can't... I'm going to say this, and I say this with love and compassion. I can't wait to be 40. I can't. I want to be able to talk about this stuff. Like, I have In Living Color on when I'm writing this book, you know, just to make sure that I laugh and I think about black culture as you know, the kind of excellence that it is and the fun that it is. But I'm also watching In Living Color, it came out in like 1993, and then I'm watching Living Single, and I'm watching these things on repeat, and I'm going, this was like when I was a child. How do I explain this to someone who might be my age in 10 years? How do I do that? Because they have no concept. Like, we're getting to the place to where my best friend Ron and I can talk about Eddie George and people not know what we're talking about. Whereas, you know, like, you're right there with Eddie George. You understand. You also understand Donovan McNabb blowing chunks in a way that a lot of younger people don't.
I think you got some on me. I was sitting pretty close.
All right, so you saw the James Houston, the fourth quote, right?
Yeah, I did. Let's talk about that guy.
Okay. James Houston is a hitter. When he gets home, it's a firecracker. Problem is, he don't get home very often, and the defense ain't very good. And I was with him until he said they're not SEC. I was with him. That's fine. It's when they said they're not the Florida Gators that I started to be, hey, hold up, wait a second, wait a minute. Y'all say that like y'all didn't catch 3 L's this year, and you say that like Florida's been to the playoff. Now, I love trash talk. I love the absurdity of this sport. It is why I'm here, right? It is at the genesis of everything. Is everything about college football is stupid and sideways. But if you throw trash talk into the mix, you have me. You have my sword. And there was no reason for James Houston to throw Oklahoma under the bus. There was none. Nobody cared about this game. Nobody was fired up about this game. It didn't really have any implications. And now all of a sudden, you're going into this game without your best player. Probably without Kadarius Toney, but we'll see. And you gave an Oklahoma team that felt like, you know what? It's cool. This is gravy. Something to actually play for. And if I'm Lincoln Riley, all I do is put this clip on repeat for like 10 minutes straight. And I have that quote everywhere they go. Because I had nothing to jazz them up with, and now I have everything. It's almost like Dabo continuing to double down on Ohio State does not belong in the playoff. Which is another thing I want to talk about with you. But first,
it'll be really nice to see Oklahoma respond to some trash talk.
Oh, man.
I feel like last week was the first time in a long time I've seen an Oklahoma team respond to some media-related snub or, it wasn't really trash talk. It was just the all Big 12 team snub of last week. I felt like our team, I don't know that we would have played. I don't know if the game comes out any different, but the players sure acted like they were inspired by it. And that was good to hear. It seems like my brother Ron and I talk about this a lot because we followed PU football a long time. It seems like whenever our players say something, take Larry Burdine's comments before the USC game in the Orange Bowl 15, 16 years ago.
Sure.
Other teams come in with some intangible type motivation like that, whether it's trash talk or something, some kind of disrespect. I feel like we lose that game every time. That other team has more to play for. We lose every time. And then when it flips and we have that, we don't respond. It seems like last year the LSU guys just trashed us all in the papers. Of course, there wasn't much we're going to do about that anyway, but we certainly didn't. And this year, it'd be great. It'd be great if we come out and knock Houston, knock him back into the secondary on the first play and roll up 45 on these guys and then say, what about us now? I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see us respond to trash talk. And that's one of the number one things I'm looking for in this game is, you're right, they've given us some reason to care now. Will we?
It remains to be seen. I hope so. But, one of the things that doesn't necessarily seem to make a dent, at least in this team, Baker would tell the team how to act, right? Baker would tell them, with the way he spoke with media, how to act. I hate Texas, right? Can't do it. Or, the Baylor game, where he did not have to say anything at all, and at midfield, you forgot who daddy is, it's time for me to spank you. That dude let you understand what it was. That dude does not exist at Oklahoma right now, right? It was the Boz, I think, in the 80s, whatnot. It looks like puke, orange and whatnot. And every now and again, you have that guy. I keep waiting on that guy to show up at OU, and I don't know who it's going to be. Pat Fields is an ambassador. Pat Fields is a statesman. He is a diplomat. He's not the guy that's going to yell and scream and kick and let everybody know that they disrespected us. We have to yell about it. We have to go bare our chest. I would love to know that guy was Creed Humphrey, but it hasn't turned out to be. Even Kenneth Murray last year was somewhat that guy. I just don't. I would like to see that person make himself known in this Cotton Bowl, whether it be in front of the media or on a football field. Because when's the last time we saw a linebacker go crazy for something like 15, 16 tackles? Is it like Dom Alexander? Is it Corey Nelson? Is it that long ago?
Yeah, it's been missing. I mean, obviously we've had Baker, we've had Orlando Brown.
Ooh,
kind of
Perkins.
Out there.
Perkins. I'm getting that in the chat. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I was gonna get to him. I was gonna say the guy who's been that this year has been Buki, and that the fans have not accepted that.
That's true.
But Perkins and a little bit of Winfrey have brought some attitude from the defensive line, and that's where you want to see it. You don't see it come from your offensive line or your defensive line. Because if someone's going to talk smack, it might as well be 340.
Hey, no, for real. If Phil Loadhole had something to say, who was going to check him? Who is going to check him? If Jamarcus McFarland had something to say, who was going to check him? Wasn't nobody stepping to Gerald McCoy. It's not what you do because you want to live. You like a long life. You'd like to reach that part where you get to reap the benefits of your 401k. You don't do that by talking noise to the dude that's 6'8", 340.
Yeah, and Orlando Brown used to get the penalty of the game. I mean, first quarter
right.
He'd knock somebody over after the plays, knock us out of. We'd have to punt. We'd cost us 7 points right off the bat, but we'd just maul people after that. So we kind of let him get away with it because it cost us 7 to get 35, and we'd let him do it.
No, that's a good point.
You got to see that. I mean, you got to. There's something to be said about that unnecessary roughness call a guy gets in the first quarter. Sometimes you got to come out and establish who's going to be knocking heads out there, and we do kind of need that. We need that guy, and if it's Ronnie Perkins, I think that's good. That's who you want it to be.
I'm glad you brought up the personal fouls that Zeus used to get because it was a way of keeping track with the game. Apparently, it would always piss Bill Bedenbaugh off, but I'm going. Nah, that's when we know that they're locked in. They're clicked because Orlando decided that it was time for him to go just ragdoll somebody after the play. And you could just set your watch by it. Like, it was so much fun. Because, okay, personal foul, 15 yards, move it back. That's all right.
Yeah, he did that at Baylor that year when Baylor probably could have beaten us. They had a really good team, and we went and threw him down the first. Nixon kind of helped him, threw that guy down, and I thought, man, what an idiot, man. We had to punt, cost us points. It's a tough game. Dude, Orlando just ate those guys for breakfast the rest of the night. It was over.
So
I think that might have been the same game. What was our lineman?
Oh,
guy's
dude.
name? Defense, Matt Diamond.
Oh, yeah, because Matt flipped off the crowd.
He got ran like kicking. Well, he kicked the holder on the extra point or something like that. It was on an extra point. He just kicked somebody.
Right.
Got kicked out of the game.
And that was the last time we ever heard from Matt Diamond because he was coming on. Like, I think he's coming out of Katy at the time, too. Yeah, I forgot about that.
He's a good player.
Lee. Yeah. Matt Diamond. Just, right? Because everybody's like, yo, Hainsworth, chill out. Chill out.
That stuff's funny when you win. If you win the game, it's comedy. You lose, you transfer portal.
How do you think this game is viewed from the vantage point of an SEC, let's say fan? Yeah, let's say an SEC fan.
So that's an interesting question. To think like an SEC fan, I mean, you've got to go get out your extension ladder, and get on the highest horse you can. Like, you got to imagine yourself with the most ridiculous superiority complex. And the way I do it is I think, like, what if we were playing Cincinnati? How would we be viewing this game? You know, we're a superior program. We're in a superior conference. We have better players. We have a lot more stars across the board. You know, they're good enough. If we don't play well and we don't take this game serious, they could probably beat us. But if they beat us, it's our fault. It's not because they're any good. And I think that's how most upper echelon SEC schools approach even a game against a blue blood like Oklahoma. I still think they approach it like that because they think now the delusional SEC fan thinks about 12 of their teams could win any conference. But I think most SEC fans think 3 or 4 of their teams could win any conference, with possible exception of the ACC. You know, they're like, well, some of our teams might finish second in the ACC. That's how they feel, and they believe it, and they're not totally incorrect on that. I mean, obviously, they do have 3 or 4 teams that probably could win several Power 5 conferences. But I think they think that transitive property just because Alabama's so good, LSU was good last year, that just automatically makes them better. And just because you get ran by Alabama like Texas A&M did, what is that? You still have to go do it. You still have to beat us. I think Auburn felt that way a few years ago in the whatever bowl, Sugar Bowl, I think that was. Mm-hmm. And they got ran, and I mean they had some great players. I mean they posed some challenges that Big 12 teams don't pose because we're not built like that. But we still blew them out. I mean, it wasn't a contest, and I'm not saying that this is how the Florida game is going to go. I'm not saying we're vastly superior to Florida or anything like that. But I think that's how they approach this game, is that ultimately at the end of the day, we're one of those 5 SEC teams that's better than pretty much everyone in the country except maybe Clemson and maybe Ohio State. But that's how they feel. So and if they lose, it's because they weren't interested. I mean, we're kind of in a no-win situation here in terms of
right, and that's
impressing them.
That's what I thought too. I thought the way that this goes doesn't benefit Oklahoma at all. Like, let's say Oklahoma beats Florida, Cincinnati beats Georgia. Okay, no SEC team wanted to be there in the first place, right? Because then I'm assuming that UNC beats Texas A&M. If they go 3-0 in those games, see, we're that much better. And and I just and then there's this whole I'm the guy stumping for the group of 5 teams. Because I would really love to see what the polls do if Cincinnati beats Georgia and is undefeated to end the season, and what the polls do if Coastal Carolina beats Liberty, and it's undefeated to, in the season. But it also brings me to this thought that I've had about Ohio State and Clemson, because I've had so much fun with this the last week. First, there's the history. You get the throat punch from Woody of Charlie Bauman, 1978, in a game that they don't just lose in the Gator Bowl, but is the first 10-win season in Clemson history. And then fast forward 30 years, you're talking about Clemson beating Ohio State the last 3 times they played each other. And now we're here where Dabo, I swear, I'm watching the Zoom, right? I'm in it. And I'm listening to Dabo say we have tremendous respect for Ohio State. It's not so much a rivalry. It's anytime we are playing against Ohio State, we're playing for championships, right? Whether it's Fiesta Bowl or playoff contention. And then the next day, he ranks Ohio State number 11 in his coaches poll. And then goes on First Take the following day to talk about how little, Ohio State has played, and it's probably easier for us to scout them because, well, they've only played 6 games, so we don't have to watch that many games. And then this morning, Kevin Wilson, he of OU stock, comes over the top and says, I was really not actually looking forward to this until, I'm watching Citadel film of Clemson on my anniversary with my wife to prepare for this game. Yeah, soft schedule we had. And I'm thinking, why are you doing this, Dabo? Like, where did this come from? Because there's no reason for Dabo to really hate Ohio State or even talk trash about them. So I'm going to ask you, am I missing something?
No, you're not. And when I saw it come out, I couldn't believe it. If I'm a Clemson fan and we walk out of the semifinal game a loser to Ohio State, my irrational side isn't going to kick in for a few days. My rational side is not going to kick in for a few days. My 100% of my blame is going to go to Dabo for giving them that bulletin board material. Like, you don't have to do that.
And double down and triple down.
To do that. In fact, your rankings don't matter. Put yourself 8 and put Ohio State 1. I mean, that's the Nick Saban approach. He, and some of those old coaches, they build up your opponent like it's the best team they've ever played in the history of the world.
Right.
And that's the approach you got to take. I mean, they just given Ohio State a touchdown with that number 11 ranking.
Oh, dude, and I found this video that ain't supposed to be out there that's circulating. A kiddo took film of Ryan Day ahead of the Big Ten championship game, giving the pep talk, and he sent 2 games, guys. Two games be national champs. You give us Alabama, you give us Clemson, you give us Notre Dame, we're gonna beat their ass. Like, he's in it, and that's out there. And I'm thinking, they really want Clemson. And like when I was doing this big story about Justin Fields last month, and I got to talk with his father, I talked to a bunch of people around him, folks that trained both him and Trevor. What was made clear is that they both want to play against each other, and they're not friends, but they're not enemies either, right? They came up with each other. They're yin and yang. They understand they need each other, Batman, Superman style, right? To demonstrate just how good one is, you need the other one to balance. But Ohio State wanted to get back to this game specifically in such a visceral way. And I wrote about this at foxsports.com, and Ryan Day says, couldn't make this story up, if we had the best storytellers. And me, with my English degree background, my master's in writing, I decided to turn that into a dramatic structure and demonstrate how, we got a lead, I got a conflict, we have a climax, we have a conclusion, and now we're about to get to our resolution. Because, after Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence are gone, you restart this thing over again. But I'm looking around, I'm going, Nick Saban was always, as you say, really good about saying nothing about his opponent, just being bland and say, no, they're really good. This is why they're really good. Be a tough challenge for us. We know that Alabama's going to stomp Notre Dame. He doesn't need to tell us that. We know that. And then I think about Lane Kiffin at Florida Atlantic and how he'd be like, yeah, they're just bigger, they're faster, they're better. Oklahoma ought to win, 7 to 8 national championships. And some of that is tongue in cheek, but some of that is just him, I guess, making fun of the way that Saban and others used to talk about their opponents. Because you're not supposed to win that game if you're Florida Atlantic. Like, I think about that a lot when it comes to Kiffin. Because he played Ohio State and Oklahoma in back-to-back years. Now he's at Ole Miss. And nobody wanted to beat Alabama more than he did. And he nearly got it done. So I'm thinking, if you're healthy and you're Ohio State, and it seems like they will be, what is to stop you from not just winning this game, but trying to run up the score? Like, let's say, for lack of a better, like it goes like a playoff game in which we think it's going to be close, and then one team just destroys the other team. Do you think that he lets up? I wouldn't.
Well, I think last year, a lot of us thought Ohio State was the one school out there that might have a chance to slow down or potentially upset LSU. And we certainly thought they were going to slip by Clemson. I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I thought they would ultimately win that game. And honestly, they should have. They had every opportunity.
Right.
This year is cathartic. I mean, this is their chance. And I'll be very surprised if Ohio State doesn't win this game. And I think, again, for cathartic reasons, if they're up 10 and they're on the 8-yard line with 1:12 to go, and math says they can take a knee, I think they might throw it into the end zone.
No, I'm with you. Like, I'm thinking about the Nebraska game early on when Justin Fields got pulled for Jack Miller, and they're on the goal line. Jack Miller's a true freshman, gets his first opportunity to go score as a Buckeye and a quarterback. And Scott Frost was asked about it after the game. He says, do you think Ryan Day ran up the score? And Frost said, if we wanted the score to be different, we should have done something about it on the field, which is my whole heart. Like, that's where I am. If you want to have something to say about this, like, because if they drop back to pass, you ought to stop them. You ought to do something about it. Because I'm not gonna lay down in that instance so you can get your style points and your garbage points on me. Golly, like I've never been so fired up to watch a game all year, just because Dabo Swinney has decided to make this into an affair when it didn't have to be. Like, nothing about these playoffs, nothing about these rankings seems dramatic. I'm rooting for the teams to go undefeated because I want some controversy at the top. But it also led me to this because, as you very well know, I've been doing some deep dives into history of all sorts. Did you know that Penn State went undefeated for 2 straight years without a national championship?
Yeah, back when they were an independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, when people talk about Central Florida, be better, I'm like, Penn State did this. We still didn't. And it gets better because, like, I think I've told you this, and I might have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it for context. Penn State's undefeated in back-to-back years with an opportunity to go undefeated once more when Richard Nixon says he's going to give a plaque to the winner of Texas-Arkansas and proclaim them the national champ. Joe Paterno hears about this and says, you're going to do what? We're undefeated. It's like, well, I tell you what, you guys are riding a 29-game winning streak. We'll give you a plaque for the longest winning streak in the nation. And Penn State fans, like 90,000 letters stream into the White House going, are you blind? Are you high? What is wrong with you? And then later, after Watergate, Joe Paterno says, hey, I never understood how Richard Nixon could know so much about college football and not enough about Watergate. What? Like, that's what we were dealing with. I had no idea. Until I started reading about this year. So I'm rooting for carnage.
People weren't less passionate about college football back then. It's ramped up media-wise and all that stuff, but no, it's just as crazy.
No, and it's also getting to this point to where it's ridiculous because 1966, you got 3 teams with a claim to the national championship because Michigan State and Notre Dame ended in a 10-10 tie, right? And Alabama goes 11-0, but because politics are the way that they are, you have opinion polls with most of your writers located north of the Mason-Dixon line who grew up loving Notre Dame. Like all that sort of stuff. And I wonder, where do you fall on this? Do you want a definitive national champion? Or do you not care? Does it not bother you to have claims to national championships?
No, I want a definitive.
Yeah, me too.
That was the worst part of even before the Bowl Alliance and BCS and things came along, where they at least tried the best to shake up bowl tie-ins to connect the 1 and 2 team. And so he tried to this is the beginning of the 90s, kind of where you kind of started getting away from that. But before that, it was awful. You'd see two teams go 11-0, go different bowl games, not play each other. Clearly, they're the best two. No one really knew who was better, and you never knew. You're never going to find out. And then sometimes you had three teams in it, and that's the way it is. The thing is about that is that you had a lot of parity back then because there was no definitive champion. But what we need now is, and I know you and I are both on board with this, we need to expand the playoff, because the more you open it up to people, the more you're going to have a chance. You're going to have teams that can rise up. You're going to increase parity. One weird year was 1984 when BYU went undefeated, and they were in the what was it called? The
Holiday.
WAC.
Oh, yeah.
And they were tied into the Holiday Bowl, which was like this December 24th bowl, in San Diego, and they would play like, I mean, it wasn't a tie-in like they played the seventh place Big Ten team or anything like that, but it was.
But that's what happened, though.
Usually it was a 6-5, 7-4,
Michigan,
Big Ten, Big 8, some kind of school that would come out, and then they actually played a 6-5 Michigan team that year.
Right.
So it was by far the biggest name they had played, but Michigan wasn't very good, and I think BYU beat them like 24-17 or something. I mean, it wasn't even Michigan had a chance to win the game, and BYU gets national title that year. I mean, imagine that now. I mean, in today's currency, you're talking 4 or 5 teams getting the national championship because of no playoff.
No, and that's kind of the point, right? Because like Coastal Carolina beats a number 25 Liberty or whatever, who's going to give them a national championship other than like the Kali Matrix. I guess the other place that I go with this is we got 3 lost teams in New Year's Six bowls. I don't think that's ever happened. Like I don't see. I mean, I get COVID and it's a pandemic, right? But I can't get excited about Iowa State as a 3-loss team being in the Fiesta Bowl or Florida as a 3-loss team being in the Cotton Bowl. It feels totally unfair. And if you think that you don't have a fair shot in a sport that's supposed to be the most objective or at least objective with the scoreboard, we're going to lose people that would have liked the sport otherwise. Like that's what I worry about most is like you're convincing people that they have no shot. Why bother?
RJ, would you be in favor of a group of 5, not a group of 5? Some people would push for a group of 5 national champion, like they have their own separate bracket, and that's fine too. But that's not what I'm talking about. Would you be in favor of a December 12th or whatever that weekend, the weekend after championship games, not this year, but in a normal year, where this year where the 2 highest ranked group of 5 teams play, and they're basically given an automatic berth to something, like Coastal Carolina, I believe. They play, the winner goes to either the playoff or the winner gets automatic bid in the New Year's Six or something like that.
No. Right? Because we kind of already have that in some ways. I get how it's different, but like the highest ranked group of 5 team gets to play in a New Year's Six bowl, right? This year that's Cincinnati.
Right, they're already in that, right?
Right.
That's correct.
So I also want to remove any advantage that we give to moneyed schools and conferences because they already have an advantage. They're moneyed and they are in a moneyed conference. I want to see everybody get a shot, right? Because I have a group of 5 mindset, not supposed to be here. This was not supposed to work out the way that it is, but now that it has, and I got a shot, I want a shot. Just put me, let me get beat before you tell me that I'm not any good. And that's how I feel for most of the kids. It's a way different dynamic to go to, say, the University of Tulsa if you know that you can put together a magic year and go win a national championship. Like, I think about Miami in that way. Miami was blessed in that they had a bunch of kids that decided that they wanted to be good together because Miami don't want to be good at football. Miami wants to be, some version of academic success. Like everybody wants to be the Harvard of wherever when there's only one Harvard. But at that time, Miami was a private university like it is today that wanted to raise its SAT scores. And it used to just make Tad Foote, president at Miami, so mad that people only cared about the football team. And the football team would be like, yeah, we don't care about academics. We just want to play football together. And we want to go try to win a national championship. If they weren't an independent, they never get a shot, right? Because let's say they come up in the Big East. If they're, back before we gave any damns about the Big East. Nah, man, did you play in the SEC? Did you play in the Big Ten? Or another example of this is the Big Ten had to decide whether or not it wanted to be AA or it wanted to compete with the SEC in the 60s because they weren't given athletic scholarships until then. So they decide not only are we going to give those athletic scholarships, we're going to lower the GPAs requirements for the athletes. As a senior, you only have to have a 1.7. As a junior, 1.8. As a sophomore, 1.9. As a freshman, 2.0. The longer you're in school, the less you have to do. And that's where we get Big Ten football from. And when you look at where the recruits come from, where the kids come from, it's Texas, it's Florida, it's Georgia. It's the South, where football has always been religion. What if South Alabama gets good in a hurry? I don't want them to have to box out a Cincinnati who also was getting good in a hurry. If Georgia can beat them, then fine. Nothing changes. I just want to see what people claim college football is about enacted upon. They would tell me it's about, are you good enough? Because if you're good enough, you win. You got a shot. Everybody's equal. This is what Dabo Swinney claims every time he steps out of his Clemson shadow. No, we're little old Clemson. We deserve a shot. We're good. All right, what about little old Citadel? Little old Appalachian State. Can you imagine what it would have been like for college football if Appalachian State was not 1AA but FBS when they beat Michigan in 07? And we got to talk about Appalachian State possibly playing for a national championship in a 16-team playoff? It's awesome. Yeah. So I just want to see it broken open. I'm tired of this incremental BS. Let's just break it open and get as many teams into a playoff format as we can.
Well, I'm with you on that, but it's not going to happen. Sure. We're not going from 4 to 12 or 4 to 16. We're going to go from 4 to 8. And 8's going to be Power 5 AQ and 3 at large. Well, how does a G5 get in? That's where I would say if the group of 5 could at least say, hey, we're going to do our own playoff. The winner gets in. Because the NCAA tournament went to 68, and some of our teams that are 16 seeds still have to go to Dayton and do a play-in game. So, two of your automatic qualifier 16s aren't really in, but we tricked them and said, no, you really are. That game counts. So how do we get Cincy or Coastal? Let's just say we had an 18 playoff right now.
Right.
With Cincinnati in just because they finished 8th? Some years they don't finish 8th. Some years they're not. How would they get in?
Let me address it this way then. FBS football is unlike any other NCAA sport, right? It's got totally different rules compared to every other sport. And the way that we distinguish who makes money and who doesn't is totally different than any other sport. I say that to say there are 10 FBS conferences and only half of them are Power 5. So you're going to exclude 2 other conferences. I think if you allow the group of 5 to do its own thing, you're going to end up with less money in the Power 5 than you thought, because you're going to find some television network that is going, we will be the group of 5 network of choice, and we will gas you up the way that people think ESPN gasses up the SEC, the way people think Fox gasses up the Big Ten. I look at, say, the American and the deal that it put in place with ESPN Plus a couple years ago, or even last year, and how much better they're going to be because they got that deal. If you become the people's college football network, there's so much power in that. That's one of the things, like with this channel, I've really tried hard to talk about as many teams as I can, right? And even answer questions in the comments that I think are good and make them in the topics, because I think of this sport as belonging to the people. I think of it as for everybody. In an 8-team format, you better guarantee those other 3 or 2 of those other 3 spots go to teams that are in conferences, and then let Notre Dame and BYU figure it out. But so many people think that they're going to lose, a large fan base like BYU and Notre Dame. And I'm going, no, it's not like it was in the 80s or in the 60s where you had one national television game or two national television games. We see literally every game, Steve. So, how are you're just going to make a bigger pie, I think. So the way that I would go about this is, if I want to be fair about it, you have a play-in game, but you're also making those teams play another game in a sport where everybody claims up and down that, hey, it's unsafe to play more games. I don't think it's unsafe to play more games. I think it's unfair in college football because it does take more of a toll than basketball. But if it's Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati, you're also talking about who are the highest ranked group of 5 teams and then one independent, right? That's what you're doing. You have to rely on a bunch of people to rank them. And I don't rely on humans to rank football teams because everybody's got biases. We like to think that we don't, and we like to think we watch a lot of football. But when push comes to shove, you're probably going to pick the team that you watch the most. That might not be the best team. This is what the Pac-12 has said for years, right? Can you imagine what it would be like for us to have Oregon get into this thing with an automatic qualifier this year? How do you make that fair? I guess is my question. So that's where the automatic qualifier thing for the A5 doesn't really work because the Pac-12 hasn't been great.
I think we got to be careful not to mix this year in.
Okay.
I mean, obviously it's an outlier in a lot of ways, but you're right. 3-loss teams still get in sometimes. I mean, they get into New Year's Six bowls all the time. And we used to have in the BCS when there were 6 conferences then. There were big BCS conferences because Big East was still around.
Right.
And the ACC and the Big East would often put just a crap team into a BCS bowl.
Right.
Because they put 7-5 Florida State because they were still the best team. They didn't end up putting it together and win the championship game. And I remember one year Connecticut made it. You had to play them in the Fiesta Bowl.
Right. Yeah. Adrian Peterson went to work on them.
Yeah, it was like a early season paycheck game.
Golly.
In a bowl.
Yeah. I mean, but then you get things like the Avocare, right? Kickoff, where Tom Herman and Houston upset Oklahoma. And they have a magic year, right? Nobody's seen or heard from Greg Ward as a quarterback since. I want those moments for college football. I think we're starving ourselves of those moments. Why? I don't understand why. And the only argument
it's going to happen.
Okay.
It's going to happen. If you remember, how long was the 4-team playoff talked about before it actually happened? I mean,
basically since the 60s?
Years and years and years. And so we all know it's going to go to 8. And we all know it's going to end up at probably 16. By 2036, 2040, we're going to be talking about a 16. We could even match the FCS and go to a 24. I mean, at some point, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger because I think you and I talked about this the other day. The bowls are – the tradition of the bowls are gone. They just aren't. It just isn't there anymore. We can still use bowls for these quarterfinal, semifinal, final games, all that stuff. We can still use those, but nobody cares about the Cotton Bowl anymore.
Yeah, man. Making that point with you, texting with you, Texas and Miami were playing for a national championship in the Cotton Bowl, as other teams were playing for a national championship in other bowls in 1991. Right? That would never happen today, because even that bowl game is called the national championship. It's no longer called the Rose Bowl or Cotton Bowl or whatever. It's just the national championship, and we use those bowl games as semifinals. And then you get the weird stuff like this year, where the Rose Bowl is going to be played in Dallas, which is going to be weird enough. But also, because bowl tie-ins and contracts are making the sport worse, quite honestly, you're also looking around going, all right, so who gets into this bowl if the Sugar Bowl is a semifinalist game? I got that question on Twitter. It's wait a second, RG, did I miss something? Isn't the Big 12 and the SEC a Sugar Bowl game? And isn't that what it is? I said, not in a playoff year. Okay, so what about these other games that are not in a playoff year? Do they shift? It depends on the contract, right? And that's how you have Army without a place to go for days as a 9-2 squad. That's the other thing. I can't imagine how people would have taken that in the 70s and the 80s to see a 9-2 squad with the resume of Army and the tradition of Army not have a bowl game to play in.
Yeah, the bowl tie-ins really, I think, were what ruined the bowls to begin with. Once you start having, I mean, I don't mean like the Big 8 champion going to the Orange Bowl. That wasn't so much the bad thing, but having some brand name sponsored bowl with no real name, what like the Tangerine Bowl, if like you said, the Advocare, whatever bowl. It's like, well, A, nobody knows what that is, and B, it's the Pac-12 6 versus Big 10 5 or something like.
Right.
Like, who cares? Just give me a good matchup. I've kind of been on the side of we should have a committee that doesn't just decide the playoff. They need to match up all the bowls too and give us bowl games that we care about that are interesting. Like Arkansas and TCU, Texas, Colorado. Those are good matchups because of the names in them and the teams that used to play a lot, and they're kind of a regional attraction. And if that's what bowls were, I mean that's cool. I could get into that. I mean that's kind of how I remember it is fun matchups and random matchups. But the way the tie-ins are, if you finish third in the Big 12 every year, if you're Oklahoma State, you go to the Alamo Bowl like 8 out of 10 years. And you play the Pac-10 or Pac-12, and it's the same, like, just so boring every year.
Last point I would make about that is I had to deal with years of people telling me every game matters in college football, and I would tell them, no, it does not, because nobody cares that Oklahoma played Missouri State. Nobody cares that Alabama played Western Carolina. Nobody cares that Georgia played Mercer. We don't care, right? But more than that, it is the only sport where the postseason does not matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you have 5 and 7 teams playing in postseason games. For what? I mean, all we do is make fun of the NFC East, and they got to have a team that plays in the playoff, right? Like, that's the only way that they're getting in there is because them's the rules. They got to have a team. But because it's such a large field, nobody really cares. But they also know that NFC East team is going to have something to play for, because what happens if they go on a tear? Like that's the other thing that bothers me about college football is I look for too long at bowl games and wondering, all right, why are we playing so many of these? Like, as a kid, because I'm going, nah, man, like, these stadiums are empty. I don't care about these. I mean, it's football on the television during the holidays when I'm off school, so that's why I'm watching it. But I get more out of playing Madden right now. Like, what are we doing? Let me see.
Well, the argument of the regular season is it's pretty unwell thought out. That's not a word, right? Unwell. It's poorly thought out by everyone who wants to gripe about a playoff expanding, because the regular season becomes meaningless after you lose twice.
Right.
And so, I mean, if you look at you mentioned Houston beating Oklahoma. Well, they turn around 2 weeks later, lose to Ohio State. They're 1-2. I mean, we're just playing out the string at that point. We still won every game and looked like possibly one of the best teams. Definitely looked as good as any playoff team that year. Won the Sugar Bowl against Auburn convincingly, but that was our ceiling.
Right.
We lost twice. This year, same thing, and we had a good reason to lose twice. Well, kind of. We should have won those games anyway, but we were missing key players, and we breaking all that kind of stuff. Turned out to be a pretty good team, and a team that probably was complete enough to be a decent playoff team this year, but we didn't make it because we lost early. And so we're just playing out the string. It's all just meaningless games. So I don't get that argument at all. I think it adds a lot more meaning to the regular season, actually. Also, if all you got to do is win your conference to get in, I don't see why you don't go play big time September games to prepare yourself for conference play. You take an L to Ohio State early in the season.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It makes you a better team. You're going to learn from it. You're going to go for it. It's the best team. You're going to maybe they're better than anyone in your conference, and you're going to be battle tested. You're going to go. All you got to do is win the conference. You go 5-7, win your conference. Well, you can't go 5-7, but you can, maybe go 8-3 or something. You might be able to. Like this year, we took 2 losses in conference, made the championship.
Right. So one of those teams that was in the conference championship is going to end up with 3 losses, and I can't remember the last time that's ever happened in the Big 12. I don't think that's ever happened in the Big 12.
No, it hasn't. And it probably won't very often. And most of the conferences that get automatic qualifiers, if we have 5 playoff teams from Power 5 in every year and they're automatic qualifiers, one of them's probably going to suck. One of them's not going to be like the others, but that's okay. I mean, if you're playing the 4-5 game, it's a nice W. It's better than taking a 63-28 loss. You might as well get a win first.
So I wanted to this one last topic I wanted to discuss with you, because I've been walking this out, and this is kind of getting into politics, but not. So just bear with me. Nick Saban had a thing to say about Alabama Notre Dame in his Rose Bowl, preemptive conference, and the question was, how has your team changed since 2012, since the last time you played Notre Dame? And he's like, look, nothing in our program has changed. We still do things culturally the way that we've done things since I've been here. But on the field, we've evolved with the times, right? We go spread, we go RPO. Those are things that we have established. We were more, NFL play action type against Alabama. And then I go and I look at some old quotes from 2012, and I should write about this at Fox Sports, quite honestly. But he had said, is this what we want the game to be? And he was making reference to like Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze just going up and down the field at warp speed, the way that Central Florida is able to do with Josh Heupel, the way that Lane Kiffin was able to do with Ole Miss earlier this year. And I was thinking, looking at that quote where he's making reference to, we have teams that are averaging 49.5 a game. Now Alabama is that team averaging 49.5 a game. That the pass has been the tool of the proletariat. That the pass has been the tool of the rebel. That the pass has been the tool of the small school, because we don't have the big, fast athletes that you have. The only thing we have that moves faster than you is the ball. So here at Iowa Wesleyan, we're going to run air raid, right? And then I went, again, history, going back, Walter Camp basically formalized the rules for football, made it something that wasn't rugby into what we know of as football. He hated the forward pass. He hated it. So much so that, like, he went to a football conference where they were talking about whether or not they should include the forward pass, and he was going to advocate against it. He died at the conference. The pass goes into effect, and people use it to great effect going forward, and it's still sort of seen as, what do we need with this? Just line up and run the ball. So much so that even now we have people that are going, you can't win football games throwing it 50 times a game. Now every other game is somebody throwing the ball 50 times a game. So I built that argument to ask you, do you think of the pass as a tool of the rebel, or you think of the pass as just being a part of the game?
Yeah, I just see it as being part of the game.
Okay.
I feel like it's been such a huge part since the run and shoot of Houston in the early 80s, and it kind of became a thing then. Not everyone did it. I mean, to that amount, but I mean, it's been used in excess by enough teams for the past 40 so seasons that it just doesn't feel rebellious anymore to the traditional kind of skin of the game, at least to me. I mean, I definitely see the argument.
Okay. Because, like, thinking about Mississippi State and Mike Leach and Welcome to Air Raid Hell, and what happens if he gets players to run that, and it turns out doesn't matter because it only works so much. It
doesn't seem to give the lesser teams the edge it used to,
right.
Although it definitely has leveled the playing field to some degree in some ways. But I mean, it's still it's interesting now though. The gimmick teams now are Army,
triple option, yeah, flex bone,
Georgia Tech,
yeah.
And they're the gimmick teams. They're the teams that no one wants to play. I mean, they're the Houston of 1982. That's what you don't see anymore. So I don't know. It's interesting how that's flipped around. I think it's interesting though, Saban, to see how his teams have evolved over the years. And is Saban 70 yet?
68, I think. 68, 69. So right there. Right there.
So if you look at the other great coaches that have coached into their, old ages, I mean, recent history, we think of Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno,
Coaches that were really, really great and won a lot of national championships and won a lot of games, they kind of faded once they got in their upper 60s and 70s, and they just kind of lost a little bit of their luster. And I don't know if the game passed them by, if that's what it was, or just players passed them by, recruiting passed them by, that kind of thing. But man, Saban just seems to be picking up steam. I mean, there's talk that this year's team's his best ever. When's the game passing him by? When's he not going to relate with players anymore? It's amazing how he's evolved with the game. It's almost like unless his health fails, I can't imagine him not winning like he's winning now if he coaches for 10 more years.
I think the reason that he's been so good, and I was giving this some thought too as we talk about fits for coaches, I think about the quote given to a question that Rich Rodriguez answered when he became the head coach of Michigan. It says, do you think it takes a Michigan man to coach Michigan? He says, I sure as hell hope not, because I'm not from here, right? And it didn't go so well. But Nick Saban, like Lincoln Riley, fits what Alabama thinks of themselves as. Like, think about Lincoln Riley and you think about Oklahoma. Oklahoma has no reason to be one of the top schools for national merit finalists in the country. Like, it's them and Stanford and SC and MIT. It's like, for what? Because we like to think of ourselves as smart and smarter than most and more creative than most, but we also know football is what we do, right? And that's Lincoln. You look at Alabama, no, we got to win. It ain't football that we do, it's winning. And as soon as Nick Saban is not able to win anymore, I don't see him just kind of hanging on, right? The way that Bowden was hanging on, the way that Snyder was hanging on. I think the first time he loses 3-4 games in a season, he's done. He's just not going to do it anymore because he understands, this is not going to be me, and that's not who this place is. They suck for a little while. They didn't suck for a long while, right? They won a national championship in the 90s, and in short order, they managed to win a national championship in the aughts, right? Like, we were making fun of them for about 18 years in there, but they still were able to go get a national championship, and I think that's underrated.
I agree. It's like they can turn it on anytime they want.
Right, and will. That's the other thing. They will do it. Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you tell the folks a little bit about the Pearl House?
Sure. Pearl House is a girls' home. It's located in Ghana, West Africa. My wife and I, and along with another friend of ours, founded it in 2013. It is a school and also a vocational training center, career center for at-risk girls, young ladies in Ghana. And so we've tried to make a difference. Definitely made a huge difference to lots of young ladies, several graduates, and probably over 100 kids enrolled at the school and otherwise in our tenure. So yeah, that's a elevator pitch right there.
I like it. Visit thepearlhouse.org. That is THE pearlhouse.org for more about that. It is very cool what Steve and Courtney do, and I'm happy to be a part of it anytime I can be. Steve, anything else you hit on the way out of here?
No, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me plug Pearl House, and let's go make James Houston pay for his words.
I'm here for it. All right. If you guys like the channel, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I upload a video like 4 times a day, every single day. Pushing hard to 60,000 subs. You've heard me tease this many times over, but I'm going to keep teasing it. One day, I'm going to have something really cool to tell y'all. I swear. And if you haven't been paying attention, you don't really watch this channel. All right. Talk to y'all later. Deuces.